To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magic Cheers? Welcome to another episode of Talk About the Magic. This is episode 183. I'm very honored, excited that you joined me today. And hello, everyone watching here on Instagram Live. I'm still doing that. I haven't jumped anywhere else yet because so far Instagram Live has been pretty good. So if you're interested in watching the recording live, be sure to follow me over on Talk About the Magic on Instagram and make sure you have your notifications on. That way, when I go live, you will see a notification. But today's show is going to be, I wasn't sure what to title. I just kept thinking of this one scene. And it's a very famous scene from Up. And if you've never seen Up, then you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But yet you might know what I'm talking about. But so today's show is called Squirrel, A.K.A. the Doug Syndrome. So what I'm referring to here, what I'm talking about here basically is so many of us, including myself, get these ideas. We get these, these thoughts in our head. We get excited. We get pumped. We get, confident, and we're ready to move and start doing some action on the idea that we have. And then all of a sudden, before we know it, all of a sudden we just start getting kind of these other ideas that start popping up in our head. And this one over here looks maybe a little better than this one over here. And that one over there looks a little better than this other one over here. And before you know it, we start being pulled in so many different directions. We start going in so many different ways. And we lose our original intent. We lose our original idea. Now, sometimes that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's, you have an idea and it doesn't necessarily come out the way you'd hoped. And so you start reshaping it and changing it up. But sometimes it could be a negative thing because you actually lose sight of what you did to begin with. And you kind of get muddled up and lost and kind of get feeling of overwhelmed sometimes or anxiety of the fact that you don't know what you're doing anymore. And you kind of don't know how you got to where you are at. And for me, my experience with doing the podcast, that happened very recently. And like I said, if you've heard the show, you've heard me, and I feel bad about this, but you've heard me kind of go like, okay, we're going to change it up and we're going to do this kind of show now. And then, 2 months later, it's like, we're going to change it up and do it. And then until finally I was like, okay, I need to take a break. And basically, because that's what happened, I became overwhelmed because I had so many good ideas that I thought were great and I needed to act on them, that all of a sudden I lost the focus of what the whole show is about. I lost the whole focus of what I wanted to be sharing on the show. And I also just felt completely beat because I was doing so much that had nothing to do with my original idea. And it was just leading me down basically never-ending dead ends. And it's not to say that those ideas were bad ideas, but it was taking me away from the original idea I had that I'm very passionate about. And I feel very, very, 100% on that. If you were to say, look, Joseph, this is the only thing you can do. You can either keep doing the podcast like this, or you can, try doing news of Disney, try doing like all the whatever other options there are. I would want this to be it because I just enjoy being able to talk with you guys and encourage and hopefully give you some inspiration. And of course, still tying it all up with some Disney magic. But, I was getting so pulled by so many different things that I thought I had to do it because they seemed like the perfect idea. And the reason why we call it the squirrel is because basically what's happening is you are so focused in on this and something looks better in the distance. And what I love about this, and the reason why I mentioned this in particular, is because when you think about the movie and you think about Doug and everything, think about this. He always saw the squirrel, but he never got the squirrel. And usually it's because the squirrel was so far. It was too far for him to actually maybe see it, but he could sense it. He would get distracted, and he would completely lose sight and focus of what was happening in front of him, which is what he needed to have his full attention on. And every time he would say squirrel, he would end up losing his idea of what was happening, and he would end up losing basically his whole like world of what he was focusing on would be gone and completely forgotten because he was so distracted by this small, faraway thing that looked good for him, looked attractive to him, looked exciting to him, But in the end, just took him down, like I said, a dead end per se. And it's the same thing with what we have, right? I mean, think about your last good idea. And we have tons of good ideas. I mean, there's just so many good ideas that come in our head. But let's think about your last good idea that you were really passionate about. Maybe it was losing weight. Maybe it was trying to, get a promotion at your job. Maybe it was wanting to spend more time with your kids. Maybe it was, wanting to get more involved in the community. Like whatever your good idea was that you felt really strong about. Think about how many times you actually acted out on that idea and how many times you saw or felt so many other distractions come into play that kind of took you away from that idea, that before you know it, you weren't actually doing anything now at all. And it's interesting because if you really think about it, you're going to find, I hope not. I hope this isn't you, but at least in my experience, you'll find more cases than not that you are in the position of not acting out anymore because you had so many good ideas coming. And it's not to sound conceited. It's not to say like, woo, yeah, I'm over here as the idea master. I'm not saying that at all, but it's more in that it's funny how the brain works that way. That when you get that one going, you get excited, you get pumped. And so a good example, of course, we know we all, enjoy Walt Disney. We're fans of Walt Disney and what he did. And he's a great example because talk about idea master. I mean, this guy had ideas going through his head constantly. And if you read his story, if you find out about him, he was doing so much that it literally, and he admitted this, it literally led him near to a nervous breakdown. It worked him so much that he had to be recommended by the doctor to take a break because he was chasing so many ideas, and it was really, in the end, tearing him down and making him not actually be as productive as he'd want to be. And from that, he also learned, of course, how to kind of give more responsibility up and reach out in that way and trust some of his employees more and everything. And we get more of a Walt Disney that we know now. But it's interesting because as somebody who had tons of ideas, it's interesting to see how much restraint he had when it came to actually putting action to those ideas. He was able to decipher, this is more a whimsical, this is a distraction, this isn't something that I really want to focus on, and then this one is. And so, of course, like for today, what I want to talk about was his whole idea with Disneyland. We know, maybe you don't know the story of Disneyland, but the story of Disneyland, how it goes is he was sitting on a park bench watching his two young little girls play, and he said, wouldn't it be great for there to be a place that not only the children could play, but so can the parents. Parents could also have fun. And at that time, all of the, fairs and amusement parks and all that were very gritty, very dirty. If you've ever seen kind of those old-fashioned 1920 style films and it shows them all beat up and kind of like shady looking, that's the way they were. And Lillian even told him, why do you want to make those? Those are so dirty. And he said, mine wouldn't be. And that's the difference. He had this idea in his head. He had this notion. And he liked it so much. He was so inspired by what he had in his head that he said, I'm not going to let nothing distract me from this. And it took years to accomplish it. But in all those years, he stayed focused. I can only imagine what would happen if he was so focused. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do Disneyland. We're going to start making this castle. We're going to do it here in California. And squirrel. And all of a sudden he says squirrel, and he starts thinking about a water park. And this water park is going to be in the middle of the desert. Because why not, right? What other place needs more water? And he starts pursuing that one instead. And all of a sudden, the Disneyland project gets smaller and smaller. Because now while he's in the middle of doing this water, park project, squirrel moment, all of a sudden again. And now he's thinking, you know what? Maybe we should do kind of a science center. And in this center, we'll do... And all of a sudden, you see how it would get strained. But yet, he didn't let that happen. He focused on one thing. When he was done to the amount he wanted it to be, when he put a lot of effort in it, he saw it start getting its own kind of momentum, that's when he started reaching into other ideas. And that's when we see him start reaching out to create Epcot. But the whole point is those squirrel moments can completely destroy your vision. It can destroy your original idea. It can destroy your original thought. It can destroy your whole purpose, even at times. Like, that's how dangerous these squirrels are. Like, no joke. So it's important to really think about the fact that, when you get this idea, if it's something you're passionate about, and I think that has to be key because like I said, we get a lot of ideas and a lot of them seem good at the time, and then we kind of just phase out of them. We forget about them. We don't like them, whatever, they don't work out. And that's totally normal. I'm not talking about these kind of things. I'm talking about true ideas, things that really pump you up, that you're excited to do. You cannot stop thinking about this. This is something you know that you need to make happen. Be aware that when you have those thoughts, when you start working toward that goal, some way, somehow, you're going to start getting these squirrel moments. And once you get that squirrel moment, if one time maybe you don't pass it, maybe you chase a squirrel, but it's important you get back on track. And that's what I'm doing here with the show. I realized that I had a lot of squirrel moments. I mean, you can go look at my YouTube, go look at the previous episodes. And it's not to say those ideas are bad. It's not to say that those ideas are not worth pursuing in the future. But it is to say that those ideas were taking me away from what I'm doing now. So I had to stop, really kind of plan everything and say, look, this is my podcast. This is what I stand for. Talk about the magic, inspiration, inspired by Disney, my faith, and everything else that goes along with this. This is who I am. Now, everything else that comes after this, if I have time, it's a hobby, if it's just a fun thing, maybe. But this is what I care about, and this is what I put my time into. That right now, talking to you guys, doing the live show, my kids are in another room. I'm not with them. My wife is in another room. I'm not with them. I'm giving this time to you. And it's not to say that you guys aren't worth it, but you have to think about it. I don't personally know you, right? I don't personally know every single person's name who's listening to the show. And I don't know if you think negative thoughts about me. I don't know if you think positive thoughts about me. I don't know if you enjoy this show. You might turn it off right now. But my point is, I'm choosing to give this valuable time that I could be there to you. And the reason why is because I believe in this so much. Just like I believe in my family so much that, yes, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go over there and we're going to play some Minecraft. So there's times that we have. And so to me, I said I was giving too much time on other things. And that's why I said this needs to be number one, the podcast. And so for you, I would encourage and motivate you to think, what is the idea I care about? What is the one that makes me say this is worth giving up other valuable time for? Whatever that is, whatever it may be, and you're going to start pursuing it, then pursue it full force and do not get distracted by the squirrels. They look fun. They're fluffy. They're cute. They will stop and look at you and give you this idea that you're going to be able to catch them if you chase them, but they will not be caught. You will keep chasing them over and over and over again until you completely burn out, you are tired, and you're sad because you realize you're lost in the middle of nowhere and you forgot what you were trying to do. So this whole show, it's not about time. I'm not trying to take the show has to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. It's just about how much I can give. And that's what I want to do with the show. I was already very pumped up. I was planning to record this tomorrow. Well, today I'm recording this on Tuesday, guys. For listening on Sunday, I know you're like, huh? But I was planning to record this on Wednesday or Thursday. But I was just so motivated. I wanted to share this. And so it's a short show because I get all pumped up and I'm just like, I don't fluff it around and I just completely go straight for it, which is don't get distracted by the squirrels. But I do want to share today's quotes with you guys. So this one is coming from Walt Disney. He said, get a good idea, stay with it, dog it, and work at it until it's done and done right. And I love this quote because of those last three words. He says, get a good idea, stay with it, dog it, work it until it's done. Most of us stop there, right? That sounds good enough. We end it right there. But he continues on these last three words, and done right. And to me, that's interesting because that tells me it's not just about being done. It's about potentially having to redo it. And that's a scary thought because you get this notion, you get this idea and you start working toward it and you do all this sweat and tears and you work to your bones on making this happen. And then when you realize, you look back at it, that you took some shortcuts that you shouldn't have taken, that maybe you did some things that you shouldn't have done to make this a reality, and it just didn't come out right. It didn't come out the way it should have. That potentially means you might have to do it again. And that's a scary thought. You want to do it right the first time. All of us want to do that. But to be able to look at what you are working on and see it completed right and well is amazing. And getting that quote from Walt is pretty impressive, considering when he created Disneyland and it was opened, there were so many problems that happened on opening day. if you're not aware, I mean, there was so many problems. The water fountains weren't going. They had a choice between turning on the plumbing or getting basically the filters and stuff for water, the water fountains going. And Walt said, well, they can buy sodas, they can't be on the streets of Disneyland. So he chose for the plumbing. There was so many problems that happened there. But even with all of those situations that happened, he did things and he understood what to do to make them right. He was able to fix them. He was able to like, he didn't settle. He didn't say, we just won't worry ever about putting water fountains in. They were done right. It was eventually put in. It was done in a way that was correct. And so much so that when he started working at Epcot, he wanted to avoid all of those situations. And he was creating this new town, this new world, and making it to be perfect when it opened up on the day. So there's things that you will do that you want to do, and like I said, there'll be times that you maybe take that shortcut and you shouldn't have. So it's important to not just do the things and complete them, but do them right. The second one is a proverb of mine that I enjoy. It says, "Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and be steadfast in all your ways." Again, it's just being aware, because each path does lead somewhere. Like, think about it that way, because we think, oh, I'll just do this for a little bit, that's not going to hurt. Or I'll just do this for a little bit, and this will be okay. But you have to really take it seriously in the sense of knowing that any path that you are taking, you don't know where it leads to. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get back from it. You don't know how dangerous it is up ahead. I mean, there's so many issues. And so why take a risk like that? Which, again, goes back to the squirrel. That squirrel is going to lead you to a path you have no idea. It's running away it's running away from you. And when you're chasing it, you're going into unfamiliar territory. Those are paths that you want to avoid. You want to stick with what you have. Focus on and it's hard. It is so hard. I'm not trying to tell you this like it's an easy thing. It is very hard to stay focused, at least for me. It is extremely hard to stay focused, to say, okay, I'm going to start doing this, and then I'm going to, just ignore everything else and focus on this. It's very hard. Like, look, guys, I got this heat press and all this other stuff to start this shirt thing going, and I'm doing the podcast, and I was doing YouTube videos. I'm still playing, trying to do music, and still have a job. I have my family, and we're still trying to go to Disney. We're still there's just so many things that you can kind of just get distracted on and kind of lose your ways. And that's why it's so important to really not allow those things. And so what I've learned, and of course, thanks to my wife, who's very organized, it's very important to organize your time, right? And so I try to set up a time and say, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how long I'm going to do it. If no ifs, ands, or buts, after that, I'm done. And that's kind of helped me to limit wasting time. Because when I start, let's say I'm starting to work on a shirt project, I get excited, I start doing it, and 5 minutes turns to 10 turns into an hour. Literally, that fast. I forget, I completely lose sight of what I originally was starting to do. And so it's important to really focus on your time and say, you know what, 20 minutes is what I'm giving to this. If I'm not done with the 20 minutes, then tomorrow I'll do another 20 minutes, or maybe give myself a little more time, because I know. But it's important to do that, because like I said, it's very easy to lose sight. And you get the busy syndrome, where you feel like you're doing so much. Woohoo, I'm doing so much busy stuff. I'm awesome. And you realize, well, that didn't lead to anything, and I just wasted a lot of time. So it's important to keep your feet and your path keep your feet on the path and stay steadfast on it. Do not get distracted. Do not get, the squirrel syndrome. I was going to do the squirrel impression again, but I think you guys are tired of it. I do want to share a story. I remember one time that I was in a band and we were recording in a studio. And we were there for probably about 4 hours. And we were so excited because we were almost finishing up, what we were working on. And the sound engineer was there, and we're in the middle of talking. The band, we're all talking. We're saying, okay, look, this sounds good. Let's try to do this. Let's do this. We're going to add this music here. We're going to do it. And he just turned off all the equipment. He turned off all the computers. He turned everything off. And we said, what are you doing? And he said, that's it. I'm done for today. And I were like, well, we wanted to keep going. We don't mind paying you for the extra hour. Nope. 4 hours. We can come back tomorrow if you want. That got us mad. But looking back, I realized it's genius. because you need to give your body time to rest. You need to give your mind time to kind of get out of that goal, because all of a sudden that drive keeps going and everything sounds so good that it ends up being bad. You know what I mean? And I learned from that lesson that he taught us, whether he meant to or not, which is it doesn't matter how important the situation may seem. Sometimes it's best to take a break before you get into, I'm going to do it. Squirrel. Okay. That's squirrel. I was trying not to do it. That's squirrel syndrome. So guys, I hope this show was good. I hope you guys got something from me. I know I'm very pumped when, I was watching the clips again, watching the movie, and it got me excited because I realized, you know what, this is exactly how I am. And I know, some of us are like that, where we see that squirrel and we get excited, we forget our focus, and we get tempted to go chase it down. But I'm encouraging you guys to not do it. I want to make sure you guys stay focused on your path and do not get distracted by the squirrels, no matter how much fun or good they may look. So I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. Remember, you can head over to talkaboutthemagic.com, find out all of today's show notes, or if you're listening on your phone or on the podcast, you can see show notes there. I will have the link to the book that I am right now really delving into when it comes to Walt Disney, which is a quotable Walt Disney book. It's a great book, a lot of awesome, quotes that he shared. So I'll put that link in there as well as the secondstarapparel.com, where you can get custom shirts made. I have my Stay Magical shirt on right now. I have some other friends who I've just sent them some shirts as well. So you guys can, if you have a vacation coming up or a family reunion, something like that, simple shirt design, and you just want it on a shirt, I can make that happen. So head over to secondstarapparel.com and see it there. I hope you have a great night, day, weekend, whenever you are listening to this. And as always, stay magical.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.